Failure is a part of the process. You have to fail to win. You have to lose your fear of failure. Failure is a part of the process. People who never fail, never try. You have to fail. You got to get it wrong to get it right. You learn nothing from winning. You only learn from your failures. Warren Buffett said he won't even invest in a person's business unless they failed in 2 other businesses. Because now you know what not to do. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing, man. I've overcome so many failures. I've failed more times than I've succeeded.
I want you to be afraid of failure. I fear failure. But more important, I want you to be horrified. I want you to be terrified of sitting on your ass and doing nothing. That is what I want you to be afraid of waking up in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 years or 60 years and being no closer to your goal. You've made no progress. That is the horror. That is the nightmare. That is what you need to be truly afraid of. Being stagnant. So, get up and go. Take the risk, take the gamble, take the first step, take action. And don't let another day slip by.
Some of you right now, you are in a tough season. An event has happened and something's happened and maybe you have failed. But I want to remind you that failure is not final, it's formative. It is not final, it is formative. It is part of the process. It's part of the journey. Your failure matters as much as your success. How do you think you're going to grow if you don't ever fail? Yet some of you have failed and you have decided, well, guess what? I'm a failure. No, failure is an event. It is never a person. Just because you failed doesn't mean that you're a failure. In fact, failure is actually fuel for your future. The way that you grow, the way that you advance. You have to fail in order to succeed. I wish I could get a witness at 12:15 who knew that they've gone through some failures, and just because you failed doesn't mean it's final. It's formative.
I have failed far more times than I've succeeded. Far more. You will never succeed more than you fail. That's not how it works. You know why? Because failure is a wonderful teacher. It's the only way to learn. You have to fail. Failure is a part of the process to becoming successful. So when you fail, it's a part of the process. Keep going. You're supposed to fail. Shit, who you know that gets it right all the time? That's impossible. You have to fail. Matter of fact, when you fail, be glad about it. Every time you fail, you're one step closer.
Failure is the stepping stone to success. Thomas Edison, right? When a reporter asked him, what is it? How do you feel about failing 1,000 times? And he said, no, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 different ways that it wasn't going to work. And that's what's happening with you. But every time he found a way that didn't work, he was adding to his journey. He was growing stronger. He learned something. He discovered something.
If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything except my faith. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. First, you will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose at something. There's no doubt about it. Here's my second point about failure. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. My wife told me this great expression. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Les Brown's a motivational speaker. He made an analogy about this. It says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now we have to go to the grave together.
Most people allow their fear of failure, 80%, allow their fear of failure to outweigh their desire to succeed. When you're willing to fail again and again and again, when you make up your mind to become unstoppable, when you make up your mind to become a no matter what person, then that will then give birth to a part of yourself that you don't know right now.
I want to talk to you today about don't be defined by your mistakes. We can all look back and see times where we gave in to temptation, we let our guard down and compromised, we were sloppy and didn't handle a situation the way we should. It's easy to be defined by one moment in life, by a divorce, by a business that didn't make it, by how we raised our children. The enemy is called the accuser. He would love to convince you to let that one mistake, that one season, to cause you to live down on yourself, not be passionate about your dreams. But that mistake didn't stop God's plan. You may have failed, but you are not a failure. That was a moment in your life. That was one season. It doesn't determine your future. Don't let that mistake define who you are. If you go around wearing negative labels, divorced, addicted, failed, compromised, it will keep you from the fullness of what God has in store. People will try to define you by your mistakes. They'll try to stick labels on you, remind you of all the times you failed, the times you compromised, the times you didn't measure up. Sadly, some people will choose to remember your failures more than your victories. Like with Bill Buckner, despite all the good you do, despite the time you make sacrifices to help others, you're honoring God, but when you make one mistake, when you go through one bad season, don't be surprised if people don't try to convince you to live condemned, like you're washed up. Well, God's not going to bless you. You missed the ground ball. You went through the divorce. You gave in to temptation. Just sit on the sidelines. No, don't let people label you. They don't determine your destiny. They cannot stop what God has ordained for your life. The only one that can stop you is you. If you let your mistakes define you, if you wear labels that people stick on you, if you believe the lies from the accuser, that will keep you from your destiny. You may have made mistakes, but you have to learn to forgive yourself. Quit beating yourself up over what didn't work out. Sometimes we can forgive others easier than we can forgive ourselves. People tell me, Joel, I didn't raise my children right. I blew my marriage, wasted years of my life on drugs. That's in the past. You can't change what's behind you, but you can do something about what's in front of you. God's mercy is bigger than any mistake that you've made. He can still get you to where you're supposed to be. But you have to do something important. Forgive yourself. Quit dwelling on everything you've done wrong, how you should have been more disciplined, how you didn't control your temper. The moment you ask God to forgive you, He forgave you. Not only that, He doesn't remember your mistakes. Why don't you quit remembering what God has forgotten? Quit replaying your failures. Quit reliving your mistakes. Thinking of the times that you didn't measure up. That's just making you more guilty, more condemned. The enemy would love for you to go through life living condemned, wearing negative labels, doubter, failure, divorce, unworthy. Do yourself a favor. Take off those labels and put on what God says about you. Forgiven, redeemed, blessed, qualified, victorious. If you'll keep the right attitude, God will use your failures to get you prepared for where He's taking you.
Here's the formula for success and the formula for failure. Here's the formula for failure. A few errors in judgment repeated every day. Why would we repeat an error in judgment another day? Here's why. Disaster doesn't usually fall on you at the end of that first day. If you suffer dire, disastrous consequences the first day of mistakes, see, we would quickly change. I mean, overnight, we'd be burning the midnight oil, how to avoid and change it all so that these disasters don't happen again. But failure is subtle. Failure just takes you down the road you really don't want to go, but it doesn't seem like the consequences are going to be severe at the end of the first day, at the end of the first week. But you can't let yourself get faked out. The guy says, I've been eating junk food for 30 days and look how healthy I am. See, he's faked out. He's misguided. He doesn't understand. You can't judge just after 30 days. I remember once I was talking to the kids about, judging whether something is, right or wrong, to do it or not to do it. And I had a candle, and I lit this candle, and I said to the kids, I've heard that if I put my finger in this flame, this fire of the candle, that it will burn my finger. And the kid said, yes, it will. If you put your finger in this flame from the candle, it will burn your finger. I said, well, I don't really know, but I'm willing to try it. So I stuck my finger in the candle flame like this, and I said, my finger appears to be okay. And I did it again. Pulled it out, and I said, my finger appears to be okay. And they all said, no, Mr. Rohn. You can't judge whether or not the flame will burn your finger just by going like this. You've got to leave your finger in there just a little longer. I got the message. And they got the message. You can't eat junk food for a month and say, look how strong I am. Because already you have started down the wrong road, but at first the consequences aren't disastrous. Your whole life isn't upside down. You haven't ruined your whole life and you're going to have a heart attack at the end of 30 days. No. But subtly, month by month, and a little more experience eating junk food, and sure enough, now the consequences would start to show. So here's what wisdom is. Trying to learn early the consequences of errors in judgment, poor behavior, poor language. And then try to learn from others that have gone down a disastrous road, and sure enough, they suffered the consequences, and you say, wow, then I'm going to change direction because I don't want those consequences. That's called being doubly smart. A few errors in judgment repeated. It's easy to repeat. But a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And you can turn anything around. Once you see that you're suffering either early consequences or severe consequences, all you have to do now is shut down that route. Pick another destination and start going that way with some easy disciplines that day by day gather momentum, and now one success leads to another, leads to another. Here's what we call that. Disciplines. Easy disciplines. And then remember this in your personal development quest. All disciplines affect each other. Every discipline affects the rest. Every lack of discipline affects the rest. Fine-tune all of your other disciplines. Each new affects the rest. Each lack of discipline affects the rest. So starting on this journey of new disciplines, solving problems, going from errors in judgment to easy disciplines that can change it all. And if you start that journey, it doesn't take long for new signs of success to appear. Harder on myself than on my job. The early success, the early signs of the fact that I was going to arrive at a more positive destination, I was hooked. It didn't take but a few months, less than a year, and I was hooked for life. I ask you to start that same journey. Let your new skills, new disciplines affect all of the rest and inspire you to never cease this quest for refinement. Of first philosophy, then activity, to make your life better.
Well, by the same token, you don't have to force yourself or motivate yourself to think negatively, to be depressed, to hate somebody, to want revenge, to want to get back at somebody, to beat yourself up over the head, to feel loaded with guilt. You don't have to make any effort to do that. Your mind is on automatic. It will do that by itself. But if you want to begin to move into your own personal greatness, if you want to begin to really enjoy a happy, successful, healthy life, you've got to be willing to go against the tide. You've got to be willing to harness your will and say, in spite of this, I'm in control here. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm not going to let this destroy me. I'm coming back, and I'll be stronger and better because of it. You have got to make a declaration that this is what you stand for. You're standing up for your dreams. You're standing up for peace of mind. You're standing up for health. You want it, and you're going to go all out to have it. It's not going to be easy when you want to change. It's not easy. If it were in fact easy, everybody would do it. But if you're serious, you'll go all out. So yes, I'm going to turn this situation around. I'm not going to sit back and moan and cry over what happened and what went wrong and who did what. I'm going to do something about this situation. The next thing that is important is that expect things to get better for you, because they are. See, life is cyclic. You're not, whatever experience you're having right now, it has not come to stay. It has come to pass. Not to stay, just to pass. It's just going through. The biggest challenge is to know what's happening. This is a part of this thing we call life. This too shall pass. And maintaining perspective, putting it in perspective.
Discipline is like a set of magic keys that unlocks all the doors of wealth, happiness, sophistication, culture, high self-esteem, pride, joy, accomplishment, satisfaction, and success. The first key to discipline is awareness of the need for and the value of discipline, and especially the discipline to make the changes. What will it take? What must I do? And what must I become to get all I want from my life? The second key is the willingness. More than that, the eagerness to maintain your new discipline deliberately, wisely, consistently. And the third key to discipline is the commitment to master the circumstances of your daily life, to see and harness the opportunities to make something of the sun and the rain, the good as well as what comes in the guise of misfortune. Discipline does many things, but most important of all is what it does for you. It makes you feel better about yourself. Even the smallest discipline can have an incredible effect on your attitude. And the good feeling you get, that surging feeling of self-worth that comes from starting a new discipline, is almost as good as the feeling that comes from the accomplishment of the discipline. Second, a new discipline immediately alters your life direction. You don't change destinations immediately. That is yet to come. But you can change direction immediately. And direction is very important. Third, discipline cooperates with nature. Everything strives. It is a common life function. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it can. Everything strives to become all it can possibly be. And that striving to become is what discipline is all about. Disciplining ourselves to fulfill our natural potential to become all that we can be. And finally, discipline attracts opportunity. Opportunity is always looking for ambition and skill in action. Discipline taps the unlimited power of commitment. The human will in action, driven by inspiration, enticed by desire, tempered by reason, guided by intelligence, can bring you to that high and lofty place called the good life.
Most people can't tolerate defeat faith. I'll tell you, my God in heaven, let me tell you what he did. He repurposed my entire mess and built me a masterpiece. It protects the house. When there's a flood, that house doesn't get hit. It's got a bazillion goddamn rocks all over the place. And then the foundation's that, those stones are that, the entire house is protected that way. And then we took the dadgum water and we diverted it into the most incredible waterfall, ask Ryan Snowman, you've ever seen in your life. There's a waterfall that runs from 100 yards up my hill all the way down, cascading into the lake. Those rocks literally diverted the water that was coming from my family down into the lake. It repurposed my mess into building my dream. let me remind you of something. Your mess right now in your life, if you got one going, does not disqualify you from making your dream happen. Everyone around you at some point is going to think you're crazy. There's going to be a point where your life was jackhammered and dynamited into a complete mess. And I'm telling you, from those greatest adversities, this is not rah-rah, I'm living proof of it, became one of my great dreams. And from that home is where I met all my mentors, have done the majority of my business deals. My net worth since I built that house has increased about $300 million from that mess, right? I tell you that because that's going to happen for you. You got to be able to bend time. Man, you hear me on this? There's a few things I know in my life, and I know what I'm telling you is right. Now, you better be able to do all the things you don't want to do as long as you can, so you can do all the things you want to do. You got to do all the things you don't want to do as fast as you can, so you can do all the things you want to do for as long as you can. Because you got 8 years left. Time's clicking. My life changed on time when I was 30 years old. You have anybody in your family that you resemble?
People always say money doesn't matter once you get to a certain level. No, it matters. You can spend $5 a month and have more emotional juice, and it can be measured all the way down into your...
A goal, where do we go? Because you can have the best ship in the world. You can have the best cruise liner, but if the captain does not know where to go, that ship will drift around the world and out there at sea and will never end up anywhere. And this is exactly the way it is in real life. If you don't